Paul Tudor Jones here. Paul, welcome to the show, man.
Well, it's exciting to be here, Eric. Glad to be out in the trenches finally.
Yeah, it's it's been such an invigorating ride at SumerSports. I know we'll talk about the picks as they come in, but with you, I just want to talk about the vision, like the sort of the genesis of SumerSports. Why we started. You guys started this company and this great odyssey we've been on. It just seems like a dream come true for anybody who wants to do analytics in football. Where did it start?
I think there's some weird gene in my family that has sports addiction. It's funny, I grew up hunting and fishing with my father. My father did that his whole life. When he was around 67, he discovered basketball and became a basketball fanatic. He literally went to every Memphis Grizzlies game for the rest of his life. And there's zero doubt, my mom died when he was 82, and there's zero doubt that basketball extended his life till he was 100. He died when he was 100. He watched basketball all day. So for me, 1993, my uncle and I put together the bid to try to win. Memphis at the time was competing for an NFL team. We came in third behind Charlotte and Jacksonville. We lost out. I think we bid $145 million. I think Charlotte beat us by $10 million. And I'm sure David Tepper wouldn't mind selling me that today for 40 times. I can't believe $10 million cost me $4 billion. And then in 2007, I had a handshake deal with who's the guy that did Blockbuster? The owner of the Dolphins. And then beginning of 2008 came, and I got really scared and backed out. Which again,
was that Wayne Huizenga? Was that
Huizenga for that? I think we were going to do something around 1.2 billion, and I got nervous when 2008 because I could see that all hell was getting ready to break loose, and that was another great big miss in my investing life. But anyway, I just always loved football. And the sad thing is my son is completely football obsessed. So a year and a half, he's been managing my fantasy team a year and a half ago. He's also a statistics major. I'm a huge analytical and data nut. Obviously, a great deal of my success is based on this. And then so a year ago in January, when he still had a semester to go at NYU to get his master's, he said, let's do this. And here we are today.
Yeah, it's such an evolving field. I think that, it was the right time to go in, right? My history has been, player evaluation at PFF and some of the sort of components of what goes into what we're trying to do at SumerSports. But I think like a great deal of what we're trying to do is synthesizing all those things, right? So fourth down decisions are a great leap. The player evaluation is a great leap. Wins above replacement, great leap. But no one is really, and then we're seeing this right here. And I'm gonna interrupt this for a pick. The Detroit Lions took Jahmyr Gibbs at 12. I'm staying positive. I know I'm staying positive. I love Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs reminds me of Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara was taken in the third round. So I think about Detroit, and I love the Lions, and they do a lot of great. I think they've built a team, and yet.
Wait, can I just say one thing? I've got something more exciting than that, or more incredible than that. Do you like Chinese food?
I love Chinese food.
How often do you open the fortune cookie?
I like the taste of the fortune cookie. So
how
every time.
Often do you read the fortune?
100% of the time.
Okay.
I want to see.
How often have you gotten a fortune that really got you going? A great fortune.
Well, I think so. I know where you're going, but my issue is sometimes the fortune isn't even a fortune anymore.
Okay. Exactly.
Yeah.
Today, I don't know. I think you were in here 1 minute before the draft when I was finishing my Chinese dinner and I opened my cookie. Guess what the fortune cookie said? A financial investment will yield returns beyond your wildest dreams. And listen, I've been trading for 40 years. Anybody that's ever traded a long time, we're the most superstitious lot on earth. That right there is the greatest talisman I've ever had in my life since I won the Ducks Unlimited lottery in the 6th grade in Memphis, Tennessee, and got this beautiful lab puppy. And that was I'm telling you, this is so huge. I would be so long Sumer that I couldn't even stand it. That is the greatest event of all time.
Yeah,
anyway, sorry.
So, I mean, and look, like, I think it's, and speaking freely, like it is really inspiring given, like, to me, it feels like when we talk and we started remotely and we do have a lot of cool meetings together and everything. I think every time we get in person like this, it is just fertile. It's
Can I just say this? I have spent, if you think about football, so I've had 3 PhDs in the last 14 months in football. If you think about football, we all are captured by these 22 magnificent players on the field, huge impact, and you're running the whole emotional gamut: joy, pain, anger, elation. And they're these larger than life figures and coaches, and that's what we think of as the on-field collisions and the drama around it. But what I've learned in the past 14 months is, holy cow, there's another war going on off the field, the analytical war. And that war, which we all know about and we talk about, and certainly we talk about strategy, but that war is so much more complex and so much bigger than anyone even begins to think of. And so let me just ask you, if you had to say analytically where football is in the possible universe, where would you say, how far has analytics progressed in football?
On a scale of 1 to 10.
No, 0 to 100%, like 0. We do it. So we're measuring
15%.
15. Okay, so I've spent the past couple of weeks doing a deep immersion on large language models. Like everyone in my field, anyone in data has obviously done a complete, total pivot to trying to understand neural nets and tree networks and genetic algorithms and large language models and all that. What I now understand with great humility is how limited we as a human species are cognitively and mentally.
Yeah. I mean,
and what I understand at Sumer and in football, I would say, I think 15, you're way too high.
Okay. So that's like an owning of my career. Like, to this point, I feel like I'm like a decent fraction of that 15. But if you want to make it like 8, I just want to make sure that I'm a decent fraction of that 8. But yeah, I feel what you're saying.
So again, the fun part of this for me is, again, I break football down to 4 quadrants. You've got player selection is 1 quadrant. And then you've got performance enhancement. And that's what most people think of when they hire it. Player selection is your GM. Performance enhancement, that's your coach. How does he get the most physically and intellectually out of a player? And with 1 trillion neurons firing in your brain, good Lord, the search space there is huge. Then you've got play design. What are the plays that we're going to run on those 136 opportunities every game? And then finally, you've got in-game decision-making. So the fun part has been going through and trying to understand the size of the search space. In-game decision-making, by our reckoning, is 2 times 10 to the 264th. That's more than all the subatomic particles in the universe. It's why it's so easy to Monday morning quarterback someone, because the search space is so much bigger beyond any human comprehension capability.
Yeah, it's crazy. And to your point about the degree to which we've understood this, right? So football analytics to this point, I think we have 4th downs nailed. I think even like there's actually some research that one of my friends is doing that's actually showing that like what's job preserving and what's game preserving are different. Like we've touched around the corners. 4th down decisions are one of the corners. We've done run pass ratios. We've done play action stuff. Those are the corners. The question is like, do we have a unified theory of like, okay, you come out in 12 personnel with this personnel with these mismatches, and then what, all this stuff. Like that's the other 99% of the problem. And we spend, months and months and months, during an NFL season complaining that Mike Vrabel doesn't go for a 4th down or this, that, and the other thing. And we haven't gotten to that bigger problem.
We're so, and again, I say this with the greatest humility. The search space is larger than any human can comprehend. And the exciting thing about what we're doing at Sumer, and particularly on the player selection side, I keep thinking, I go through these analogies, and I know is it horse and buggy to the automobile? Are we Oppenheimer in the Manhattan Project? I feel like Steve Jobs with the iPhone at times. I know, because we're getting ready to bring truly, I don't think we've ever assembled this many smart minds together to focus on one aspect of one sport. And here we're just looking at player selection. So it's exciting about the revolution that's coming.
To your point, like when I started at Pro Football Focus, now I was still a math professor, but I was the first data scientist there, and I wasn't even full time. NFL teams, like now you have Baltimore and stuff, they're considered like really, awake to all this stuff, and they have 6 to 9, data scientists, right? We have 3 times that, in the building right now. And to your point, it's just such a big, big problem. And I think what makes it even more fun, or maybe more daunting, and this is maybe where you can draw on your experience in the markets, is it's not time invariant. What works as a defense, the 2 high stuff works now. And in a couple of years, it's going to be single high stuff with some other definition of what a linebacker is. And so like the hardest part is football is such a small sample game. You have 100 snaps a game for some of the most voracious teams on offense. You have 17 games a year, and adding tracking data has helped because that's multiplied it by about a ton of but on the play level, there's only like 200 per game, and there's only like a little under 300 per season, and it evolves. So
but again, we calculated this. There probably at least a minimum. If you took reasonable variations, there's a 36 million set of plays. And that's really undercounting that an offensive coordinator has to choose from. Imagine 36 million. And of course, they have on their little paper their 100 or 200 plays, but there's 36 million out there. That's what's so exciting. Because what I see is football on the verge of an analytical absolute revolution, explosion that's going, I think, it's going to be like, again, watching a horse race versus watching a Formula One. We're going to go from watching horses, which is exciting, wonderful, fantastic, but we're going to start watching Formula One.
Yeah, for sure. So a couple updates. Lucas Van Ness has been the pick. Edge defender for Iowa is the pick for the Green Bay Packers at 13. The pick that they used in a trade to move when they got Aaron Rodgers. And now Steven Santiago's Pittsburgh Steelers, our great VP of consumer engineering, they have moved up to pick 14 with the New England Patriots, which foils some of our plans over there with some of our tools that Thomas is working on. The Steelers.
Well, but hopefully our tools can accommodate that.
Exactly. So we'll see what those trades. Have netted out at. But the Steelers are at 14 here. Interestingly, Will Levis
probably feels like he's just right back at the Falcons, right?
Yeah. And the Steelers were previously at 17. So they moved up. The Patriots have moved up 3 spots. Who knows what this is for? But to sort of bring it to a broader point of what you're saying, like it's so crazy because you talk about the search space and how big it is and how vast it is, and yet there's only so many of them that are played a game, right? So you think about all the statistical tools that we're going to have to bring out, the Bayesian, stuff that we have to, that we're going to have to bring to the forefront to solve those problems are so immense. And I think some of them don't even exist now.
I think you're 100% right. Again, if you think about what reinforcement learning is doing in the world today and how it's ChatGPT-4 is transforming the world literally under our feet and will continue, that's saying a similar type of revolution is going to come to football, just the same way now. Someone going on 4th down, we kind of look at it, but not really, because we're coming to accept that. Whereas 10 or 15 years ago, we would have thought that's the craziest thing I've ever seen. It'll be interesting to see as analytics come to the game, how the game changes in terms of the way it's conducted.
Yeah. So, and think about it. Like, one question I want to ask you, because I'm not, I have a broad idea of what the trading world is like, but like, I mean, analytical advancements in trading changed the trading game, right? And like,
100%.
and you had to evolve in order to stay. I mean, we were just talking about that outside. Where it's like you're sort of you had one way of modeling these systems, and then you sort of had to change into a different way of modeling these systems, or you're transitioning a different way of modeling these systems. And it's like, we're going to have to do that in football, right? We're going to have to, I mean, player eval. I mean, and it's kind of what happened when the NFL gave us tracking data, right? Before, back when I was at PFF, like we had the charting data. It was like every play got a charting, and then the NFL said, well, we want to add more data to that. And so they put, chips in the shoulder pads, gave us that. And it took a long time to incorporate that, right? Because the teams weren't ready necessarily, to advance, to make those advancements in player eval. Like, do you see a parallel between, do you see it as a faster pace evolution or a slower pace evolution to what you're dealing with as a trader?
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot more efficient. For instance, right now, in free agency and the draft, so often as a fan, you sit there and you go, I can't believe they drafted that person. I can't believe they took that person as a free agent. If you think of what's going to happen, and particularly with the tools that we're building, there's really 4 big variables to selecting a player.
Right.
First variable is, what's the scheme of the team the team need? The second variable is, what is that player's grade, i.e. his physical and intellectual capabilities? The third one is, what is that player's usage on the field? If you're drafting a quarterback that's going to sit the first year behind your starting quarterback, but you want to win now versus win 2 years, well, again, you wouldn't do that. They're different ways. So usage and snap counts, really important, forecasting. And the fourth one is, what does that player cost? And you've got obviously free agency, and then you've got draft capital. So the point is that once you have a number for each one of those 4, your team need, your grade, your snap count in the field, and what it costs, the rest of it's just math. What's happening right now with, I'd say, many GMs is they're not getting the draft right. They're not getting the math right when it's really just a math problem.
They're just playing the math by ear, right? And in many cases, they don't have. A lot of GMs don't necessarily understand surplus or roster value, that kind of stuff, performance value.
And again, they shouldn't, because the search space is 10 to the many thousands. It's huge, and that's why no human's going to compete with a computer. They're not. So I guess the bottom line is, where teams are going to be focusing on in the future is going to be making sure they get the grade right, the usage right. Again, injury forecasts are going to be huge. There's going to be a lot of time spent on those 4 foundational things, but the math is the math. And hopefully we're building something that's going to help teams to get the math right.
Yeah. I think we're almost ready for Thomas to be back here.
We bring the brains back?
Yeah, we're bringing. Well, this was fun, PTJ. I really enjoy it's so much fun just to talk. You have so much experience in so many areas that it's so much fun to just chat with you about these things. And every once in a while, I'll have a good idea, and it's good to see, the smile that comes on your face when that happens. But it's just really fun to just sort of pull on your experiences here. And hopefully the listeners realize what kind of treat they got when they got a few picks of you.
If I could just say this, working with you and all the other young, brilliant quants in our place, the engineers, it's been exciting and energizing for me. And I've always loved games. I've played games since I was a kid. And I look at this as like we're solving this enormous game. And it just brings me so much joy. And, I was offensive coordinator for my son's Pee Wee team, and he was 11 years old, and we had a 165-page playbook. So I just enjoy football so much.
Well,
and all the variability, it's just really exciting.
Well, I can't wait. I mean, we had a really great accomplishment this week with the draft dashboard. I can't wait until we have the unified theory of football, and hammered out, and we can enjoy, looking back at when football was the way it was when you called plays and the way it was when I grew up playing, and look at it as just a simple relic relative to what we're experiencing now, because we've changed the game at Sumer. So Paul Tudor Jones, thank you for being on the show, and I can't wait to see what happens in the rest of this draft. We're going to bring back Thomas Dimitrov